All right, so I've started the session. I have put it on record. And the topic for today is, handling missing data with imputation techniques. Specifically, we're going to discuss about hard deck imputation. All right. And I had just taken a survey. All right. I had taken a survey wherein I requested responses from everybody. Now, till the point I had asked for the question, whether you are all participants, ongoing participants, or you have completed the course, there were about 26 people in the participant list. Excluding me, that would make it 25, and I got 17 responses. So from 25, I got 17 responses. That means I got 7 missing values. 7 people did not respond. And that, my dear friends, is the concept of missingness. Now, if I really want to make sense of the data that has been provided to me by the people whom I have surveyed, I should either get the complete data or I exclude the people who have not come or not participated in the survey. Now, I cannot exclude the people who have not responded. Now, please, you don't have to respond. It was just, just a case study. I wanted to, prove a point out there. Oftentimes, when you collect surveys, when you collect information, when you collect or try to get data from different sources, you will think that you have given out, let us say, 100 questionnaires. You will probably get back 50 questionnaires. Fine, 50 questionnaires is good enough. The remaining 50 questionnaires get lost. People throw it away. They don't bother to fill it. Among the 50 questionnaires that comes to you, you will be able to fully use probably only 30 of those questionnaires, because only those 30 questionnaires would be complete. Very critical information in the remaining 20, approximately I'm telling you, the remaining 20 would have been omitted. Some data would be filled up, some data would be omitted. All right. Now, what do? There's nothing much we can do about the 50 questionnaires that never came back. But ignoring the 20 questionnaires wherein we have some or the other missingness is pretty costly. We have invested a lot and we expected people to respond. As it is, we were hoping to get 100 complete details. We only got 30 complete details. So what about the remaining 20? There is some data available, but some is not available. So can we still use it by making some adjustments? That is the basic premise of our study today, which is dealing with missing values and imputation. I hope you're all clear about the premise. Most of you are very clear about the premise or about the background of this. If it's okay, you can send in the letter yes, please. S for sun, letter S. You don't have to type the entire thing. You can simply send in the letter yes. Perfect. So I'm expecting just about everybody to respond. Rarely would anybody respond with the letter N, that is, they have not understood. So let us first understand about what is missingness. So missing data are defined as values that are not available and that would be meaningful if they had been observed, if they had been obtained. Missing data can be anything from a missing sequence, incomplete features, missing files, incomplete information, or even could be a data entry error. For instance, enter your mobile number and there you have entered your mail ID. Now you have made a mistake in entering, you realize that it's a mistake. Then when the question of enter your mail ID comes, you forget that you have not entered your mobile number, but you have entered your mail ID. So you will say, I'll give you an example. I have seen these reports. So the question would be mobile number. So mobile number, they will say abc@abc.abc. Then they will say mail ID. They will say referable. So you have an incorrect data here and a missingness here. Now if you swap it, the missingness comes here, the correct data comes here. But then you are dealing with hundreds or thousands, if not less, of records. So this both would be a missingness that would come into play. All right. So these are the things that can happen. Imputation is the process of replacing the missing data with some kind of substitution. All right, and that should be some kind of a scientific method of substitution. When substituting for the data, when you're trying to substitute a particular data point, it is known as the unit imputation. You're trying to substitute one single value. You're trying to substitute the one unit of that particular information. Now, why am I stressing so much about imputation and the scientific method and things like that is the data missing problem invariably comes in surveys, which we've already discussed just a moment ago. Now, when we are dealing with surveys, the purpose of a survey is to come up with some kind of a result. And trust me when I say this, no surveyor, unless and until you give it to a third-party agency, no organization is totally unbiased. Oftentimes, an element of bias of the surveyor, the surveyor's bias or the researcher's bias creeps in. You strongly believe that this is wrong, and therefore, if your data doesn't support your belief, you would tend to believe your data is incorrect. How many of you agree with me? How many of you agree? Agree that this is possible? Yes, it is something. This is called the researcher's bias. The researcher tends to, let his emotions play in that. We try to make it as objective, as neutral, as unbiased as possible. Somehow it happens. Now, when you have missing information, missing data, the chances of bias creeping in is even more. Not just the researcher's bias, but also the bias with reference to the data received. Now, for instance, let me give you some instances about political parties. All right. We are doing a survey with reference to let's say a simple survey of good, bad. Is the current government good or is it bad? Now, the person who feels strongly that it is bad will give his survey bad. He'll probably bold it and say bad. The person who is having no complaints may decide not to choose to respond. So, when you give out 100 forms, you may get 60 forms with 60 of all probably 50 forms bad, bad, bad. All right, 50 of those forms would be bad, 10 of those forms would say good, and 50 forms are missing. Now, in all probability, people who did not want to write bad, but were lazy to write good, are the remaining 50. Is it making sense? Now, what are you going to do? I have got 50 forms. Out of the 50 forms, 40 are bad, 10 are good. Therefore, majority say the government is bad. This is another problem. I'm just giving you a scenario. And if you are a surveyor who wants to prove that the government is not doing a good job, this kind of survey you would be very happy about it. So here, you really don't have to give the researcher's bias. The data, the available data itself will create a bias into it. All right. So that's why imputation has to be taken very, very carefully. All right. What is the business implication of imputation at the later point of time is something that you need to thoroughly study. But of course, our topic for today is not about the business implication and the business effects of it. We are going to restrict our conversation to the technical aspect of the method of imputation. So let's briefly look into the various imputation techniques. So hot deck imputation, that is precisely what we are going to be looking into as part of the session today. We also have substitution. We substitute the values using some rule. Okay, so maybe a majority rule or maybe a mode rule or something like that. We have cold deck imputation. Cold deck imputation is relatively new. cold day computation requires enormous computational power. That is why we are not discussing as part of this thing. But yeah, that is another kind of scenario that is there, cold day computation. Regression imputation, I'll just explain in a moment. Stochastic regression imputation is an advanced method of regression imputation. This again requires a lot of computational prowess. The stochastic methods of modeling techniques, if you're aware, that is what it is. But we are not going to dwell too much into that. And of course, interpolation and extrapolation. All right. So that is briefly about the imputation techniques. There are of course various other techniques, but we are restricting the explanation to this part of it, and our detailed explanation would be for hard deck imputation. All right. We have a message. Yeah, KNN imputation would be part of your hard deck imputation. Hard deck imputation through KNN is what we are going to be doing. It is sometimes separately called as KNN. All right. Yeah. All right. So hot deck imputation is a method for handling missing data in which each missing value is replaced with an observed response from a similar unit. Now the measure of similarity, this is where the measure of similarity comes. Now the similarity can be through a k-nearest neighbor scenario, because when you have a nearest neighbor, that particular neighbor is considered to be similar. Why only hot deck? Why only hot deck we are imputation, or this topic is talking about hot deck imputation? I mean, I didn't understand the question. Excuse me. Why are we discussing only hot deck imputation today? Because this is supposed to be a 1-hour module. So subsequently we'll discuss about more imputation techniques as we go further. I'm not saying that hot deck imputation alone is the method. All right. This is a webinar wherein we pick up a small module, try to dissect it completely, and then available. Yeah, we'll discuss about all those things at a later point of time. Not in the LMS, but I think it will be part of our YouTube channel. All right. So we were discussing about the similar concept of similar units. Now similar, what defines similarity? The distance, how far a particular data point is from the remaining data points, is that a similarity? Or the value itself? All right. So there are various things that can make it similar. All right. Next, substitution imputation is process of replacing the missing values with some substituted values wherever excuse me, wherever. This is again a rule based kind of a thing. If you have missing data, replace it with this value. All right. So we plan to conduct a survey of participants of their eating habits in a school hostel. So what they prefer. So do they prefer the hostel food, or do they prefer some other cuisine? Do they prefer continental? Do they prefer Indian? Do they prefer Chinese? What is it do they prefer? People who do not participate in the survey, the hostel says, please participate in the survey to improve the facilities provided to you. People who do not participate in the survey will be assumed to have liked the hostel food. So therefore, wherever there is a missingness, you get hostel food. So you have to be. That is another way of making them to choose. Am I making sense here? There are 10 questions. Okay. Yes, Shah. You wanted my attention. Yeah, what is it? Yeah, I'm coming to that in a moment. Cold is, of course, we are not going to the details of the code. Code is mathematically or computationally very, very complex. All right, but we'll come to that in a moment. I'll try and explain about the difference. It may not be possible. Probably if we have, when we have a session later on with reference to purely cold deck imputation at a later point of time, probably you'll be able to figure out the differences at that point of time. Yeah, description, it looks similar. You're absolutely right. Description, it looks similar. But the cold deck imputation uses a very complex mathematical algorithm at the back end. That is what at this point of time I'd like to reveal, because that is a rabbit hole. If I start discussing on that, I'll keep going into the details of it. So I'm restricting myself from going in that path. So you will excuse me if I don't take that. All right. So let me just explain to you, individual who has similar values on other variables. So let me just explain to you here. I was explaining about the individual, let us say a respondent, or a sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, sample 4, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, so on and so forth. Now I have these data, so each respondent or each person surveyed is giving answers. Now in between there are some missing values. Now in the cold deck imputation, what we are planning to do is, this particular person, I'll try to find who is similar to him in my entire database. This entire person, based on the responses, if he has, let us say, responded yes, no, no, yes, yes. Anybody else has given yes, no, no, yes, yes, I will try to find out in the entire data set. If I find somebody who is similar, let us say to S3, let us say S25 is similar to S3, I will probably take what response he has given and put it here. So that is in theory the cold deck imputation. Whereas hot deck imputation, I will look at the question and I will look at the values. Now if I have a missing value here, in this particular column, for this particular value, who is the closest or who is closer to this, right? So that is some kind of a hot deck imputation. So we look into that kind of a similarity measure. All right. So I leave that explanation at that point only. Let us not go too much into that. All right. And then we have the regression techniques. Now we don't have to, again, when you're doing the, you are talking about hot deck, then fine. If you're talking about hot deck, then yeah, we have KNN, we have mean, we have nearest value. All right, we have sequential imputation and hot deck imputation. There are various ways. We'll look into the case probably. If we look into the code and then look at the output of it, you'll be able to get a better understanding of how it works. All right. We also have the mean imputation as part of the hot deck. Okay. Yeah. So regression imputation, I think it is pretty straightforward. So what happens? The column that has the missing value is treated as the output, and the columns that don't have the missing value are treated as the inputs. We build a regression model with the column with the missing value as output and the other columns as the input. All the other places where there is a missing value. So let me just quickly write it down here. So I have x1, or I will refer to the data as it is. I have question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5. I have data. I have a missing value in question 2. Assume for a moment that is the only missing value that is there. So I will treat question 2 as a y, this as x1, x2, x3, x4. I'll build a regression model of y tilde x1, x2, x3, x4 using the records trying to, except for this record. except for this one record, I will use all the other records for building a model. Once I have built a model, I'll substitute this value, this value, this value, and this value into the regression equation, take the output of the model, and that is the value imputed here. Obviously, that goes without saying that it's going to be quite a slow process. Every time it is going to take that. Now, it will go into a very big loop when you have issues with multiple imputation, multiple missingness in across rows. All right. So that is another problem. Stochastic imputation, regression imputation, that is, like I said, is a continuation of that, is not just taking the regression, but we also get into some kind of a random residual value. We try to, the stochastic modeling method tries to, incorporate some kind of an error. We try to put in some kind of an error into the model to make it kind of generalized. So that is what we are trying to create, a generalized kind of a model. Stochastic methods are there, of regression are there. The same thing is being done here. Quickly about interpolation and extrapolation is, interpolation is within the particular limits. If you are working on a particular data that is constantly moving up or constantly moving down, you don't expect it to, have the numbers go up and down like this. The very good example is height of children. You expect the height of children. Let us say you are recording the heights of children every year in a school. So class 1, it was about 3 feet, then 3 feet 1 inch, then 3 feet 3 inches, then 3 feet 4 inches, then 3 feet 5 inches, then 4 feet. Suddenly there's a spurt in 1 year, things like that. This is what you're trying to record. Now we know that this data is constantly moving up. Now if in a year, the day the feedback or the records were being taken, if that particular child was absent, we still can kind of, impute it, we can interpolate it onto that particular thing. This is in between that, we're going to interpolate it and put it there. Extrapolation would be that I have data till here. Now what will happen here? Now this obviously involves a lot of risk of or too much of assumption. When I was 17, I was 5 feet 11 inches tall, and when I was 16, I was 5 feet 10 inches tall. When I was so therefore when I'm 25, I'll be 6 feet 8 inches tall. In that logic, that doesn't work, right? Because I'm now 45, I'll be almost close to 12 feet. Does it work that way? It doesn't work that way. So you have to be very careful about the assumption with reference to the extrapolation. You have the data, you have some missing value, you interpolate it. That is interpolation. That is pretty straightforward stuff, and like I said, only for longitudinal data. I hope till here it is clear, except of course for not so clear understanding of stochastic regression techniques and Coldec. If everything else in theory is clear, can you quickly give the letter yes, please? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmations. We shall now move on. So hot-deck imputation replaces the missing value with a random draw from a subsample of respondents that scored similarly on the data set of matching variables. All right. So we're taking some subset of the values. So what basis we are going to take the subset? Basically, it generates a complete data set. Disadvantages: not well suited for estimating measures of association, produces substantially biased estimates of correlation and regression coefficients. All right. We are the same example of the government is bad, the government is good. The hot-deck imputation would lean towards the government is bad just because I have a simple majority kind of a scenario. All right, so that is something that is there. KNN imputation is, again, we are using hot-deck as KNN imputation for matching a point with the closest k neighbor in a multidimensional space. So if you are aware of the k nearest neighbor concept, if you're not aware of the k nearest neighbor concept, in a two-dimensional space, if I have these many data points and if I have these many data points, if my record is here with a missingness, I would probably choose these neighborhoods and try to look into their features for the missing part of it. Forward and backward imputation is not part of the, see, it is a separate concept altogether. In your regression imputation, you can do forward and backward imputation as well. All right. We do in regression imputation, what is going to happen? We may run the imputation multiple times, because the first time, now that you mention it, I'll quickly mention that particular aspect of it for your sake. So in regression imputation, let us say I have a missing value and I have data here and I have a missing value here as well. Now, when I do the imputation, I get some value for this. The regression imputation, I get a value for this. Now this becomes the input when I have to regress for this, right? This imputed value becomes the input when I regress for this. Now when this is already an approximation, so when I regress on this, this is going to create another problem. Now when I have completed my entire regression process, all the missing values have been filled up. Now previously, when I started my imputation, let us say I have 100 rows. There are only 50 rows that are pure, in the sense they have all data available. So I would build a model of y is equal to f of x with only 50 rows. After the first round of imputation, I get values imputed in all the places. Now I can use the remaining rows also. So this time I can take 100 rows which contain 50 rows of one or more imputed values, which is an approximation, and rerun the imputation for this same value. So I will iterate it multiple times so that this value gets better and better. Am I making sense? Others, if you've not understood, don't bother. We're talking about a little advanced concept there. I haven't done that. I haven't done regression inside KNN, because whatever codes that we use as part of KNN is something that directly imputes it. All right. It does not give you an option. Okay, what do you want to choose? Because the algorithm takes care of that and imputes the value. If you can do a manual, I mean, I think it all depends on how you take it up. If you do a manual code of finding out all the nearest values, what are the nearest values, and you take it out for every missing, every record that has a missing value, you find all the nearest records, let us say K5 or K10, and then for that you do a regression modeling separately. I am not able to visualize the automated process of it. No, that is possible. For every data point, you can have 5 neighbors. So with 5 neighbors, if you do a regression modeling, I really don't see the point. Point number 1. Point number 2, if I'm going to take, let us say I have 100 data points all over the place. I think today's topic is going in a different direction altogether, but I believe others are having a little bit of interest in that. So this is about 100 data points that are there. Now I have this particular data point has some missing value. So I take, let us say 5. Now with 5 neighbors, it is really not much of help for the purpose of regression. Do you understand? Please, do you agree with me? With 5 neighbors or 5 records, doing a regression it's not very good, right? Yeah. So I will increase the neighborhood. Now, when I increase the neighborhood, the very fact of nearest neighbor concept, if you understand the concept of the accuracy falling down, if I increase the neighbor because I want more values, the very fact, the approximation, it is more approximation than estimation, and therefore it fails. The optimum value of KNN is not known. All right. So that again works on this thing. So I really have not seen an algorithm wherein it runs. Probably you can think of something better rather than regression itself. Probably you can take k nearest neighbor, and rather than doing regression, probably take a simple mean imputation. If it is let us say a continuous value, I think that would be much better than trying to do a regression imputation on the neighbors. Am I communicating? Yeah, you can probably experiment on that. So friends, I think we'll continue. I would Yeah. So it can be used for data that are continuous, discrete, ordinal, particular, which are particularly useful for dealing with all kinds of missing value. So we are going to be using this fancy impute. It's a particular module available part of KNN. So we're going to be using that, and that's going to take care of everything. We may not be able to see how exactly the imputation process happens, but you need to trust me when I say it takes the nearest neighbor. And sequential chain imputation, also called as MICE, multivariate imputation by chain equation, is also, continuously you kind of, do the imputation, is something that you can take care of it. And there's a Python model. Again, this is fancy impute, iterative imputer. It iteratively kind of imputes on that particular thing. We'll be running this as well as part of that. All right. Mean imputation, I think I don't have to explain. Most of you are pretty well aware of what mean imputation is, and similarly we have the median imputation as well. All right. So that's briefly about the presentation. So I'll quickly, go through the R code first, and then the Python code. The R code is a relatively simpler. The Python code is definitely a little better. Code is very simple, but what it does is really nice. So I have these packages that are required. So I'll just quickly, I'm assuming all of you have had enough exposure to the tools, all that. So I have these two packages that are required. I'm going to load. Okay, this is an old version, that doesn't matter. And I'm going to load the particular data set here. Not only load it here, let me just create another record here, because I want to be able to compare the raw value with the new value. So I'll call this raw. So basically I'm taking two instances of the same record, same data set, my bad. One, I'm calling it claimants underscore NN, because I'm going to be doing So as I was saying, we are going to load two packages. One is the reader for the purpose of loading the package. Another one is hot-deck imputation. This is what I'm going to be loading. And I'm going to load the data sets. Let me just do it again for you. So I'm going to load claimants underscore raw. That is, I'm going to maintain all the data sets. I have the data set of the claimants database available here. And I also have, I'm going to load the same file, 1340 observation 7 variables, into claimants underscore NN, because this particular object, claimants underscore NN, is where I'm going to be running the nearest neighbor hot-deck computation method. So it's a very straightforward kind of a thing. If you look at some of the missing values, now I have on purpose created a lot of missing values. 1247 missing values are there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the data as a matrix and put it here. And the command is pretty straightforward. Impute dot NN underscore HD. That is what the nearest neighbor imputation is. On the claimants underscore NN, which is a matrix data. Distance Euclid simply means Euclidean. Euclid, this is the short form of Euclidean. You use the Euclidean distance for the purpose of imputation. So when you run that, your claimants data set has become, obviously because it's in a matrix format, it is appearing like this. And when you look at the summation of missing values, it is all gone. So if you want to look at what impute.nnhd is, nearest neighbor hot-deck algorithm, very straightforward algorithm is there. But you'd be more interested in knowing what has happened behind the scenes. All right. So what I'll do is I will show you claimants underscore NN and claimants underscore R. So when I open this, this is my matrix data that I have. And when I open this, this is the original data that I have. So I have 7 columns. Obviously, when it takes a matrix format, the row headings and all that go out of the window. So I'm only left with that. Now let us look at the first value, the loss. All right. Now, if you look at claimants underscore NN, the first value is 6.109. Now, like I said, we don't have the time to actually mathematically explain to you what has happened behind the scenes, but you need to take my word for it that it has taken based on the nearest neighbor methodology, it has figured out what is to be done. All right. And if you look at the raw data, let us look at row number 2, column 4. So row 2, column 4, it has imputed with value 1. So the imputation process is complete. You'll be able to appreciate the imputation method that we have discussed with reference to the other imputation. So here we are going to do the mean hot deck imputation. The mean hot deck imputation is simply the taking the similarity measures and then taking the mean of that. So let me once again load the value because my claimants underscore NN has been changed to the imputed value. So I need to load the blank or the missing values once again. So let me load this. Error, my bad, just a minute. All right, so I have changed the path now. Now I'm going to load the data set into, I'm calling it M because I'm going to do the mean hot deck imputation. Now if you look at the missing values, it will be back again. Missing values for claimants underscore REM, it is 1247, converted as a matrix, impute dot mean, simple. That is what it is. And if you look at the summation of the missing values, it is 0. Now, again, we are more interested in how it has happened behind the scenes. Now, here you'll be able to look at it. So let me place this. So I'm looking at M, my bad. Right? So I'm going to view the imputed data set using the mean imputation and also compare it with the raw. So let me close this and execute this value and execute this value. Now let me compare the value. So that the mean would probably make sense if you look into the loss values, etc. So let me take you there. All right. So here the first value is missing. All right. And what is the imputed value? 3.63. Now let us go back and find the next missing value, which is line number 12. All right. Line number 12 is also missing. So when you go to line number 12, you get the same value. And then when you go to line number 15, it is the same value. But then there is a problem with this kind of imputation. Apart from the fact that mean is not a very good measure, what is the problem with this kind of imputation? If you notice here, there is a missing in a binary data. When you look at that, what is the value? All right. The binary data also is considered as a numerical value and it is treated as a numerical value. So wherever you have binary information, now you look at line number 6, row number 6. All right, so this is a major disadvantage of mean imputation when you have binary data. So that is why it is best to have, rather than have a standard imputation technique, you should probably have multiple imputation techniques for that. All right. Now let's do the same thing again, wherein we are going to do a sequential hot deck imputation. Now this is probably the, I would say, the worst method of imputation, but this has got an application. I'll explain why I said it's the worst method of imputation, and then I'll also explain why it is good. So let me just load the data again. So claimants underscore yes, again I take that. Now number of missing records, so much, converted to a matrix, do this, no missing values. Now already have the claimants underscore raw. What I just need is the claimants underscore S. So I'll copy this here and claimants underscore yes. So when I do that, this is what I get. Now, you have a missing value here, NA, the first missing value. Now, when you look at this, it takes 0 because that is how it starts. Now, let's move on and let us talk about loss only. Now, please observe that the 12th value is missing and the 11th value is 6.19. The 12th value is 6 because the integer part of the 11th value was 6. Are you able to see what I'm? Are you able to direct your attention to what I'm trying to say here? Maybe I'll show you another example. Let me go back. Now we have the 15th value as NA and the 14th value's integer value or the integer component is 0. Okay, thank you. So if I look at the 15th missing value and the previous value, that is the 14th value, the integer part is 0. Now if you look at the 15th value here, you get 0. You can probably continue. Now we will have maybe here 0, 0. Let me go for a value where it is there. Here also it is 0, so you'll get 0. Let me go further because I have a lot of missingness. We have actually created. Let us look at row number 41. So the value prior to that is 1.9. So the integer is 1. So let me go to 41 quickly, and you have 1. Now intuitively, do you agree with this method of imputation? Is there any logic in this? Yeah, discrete also. Discrete is no problem. No, discrete is the integer only, right? It takes the integer value. All right. Discrete only takes the integer value. So you have 1 before, so you have 1. Here also 1 before. Probably anywhere I have a 0 before that, it will make sense. But let us look at these two values, 24 and 25. All right. But does it really make sense, this kind of imputation? It's probably something that you would never accept. But again, there are data. Yeah, you all agree. But there are some data where when you are collecting information in a series, you're collecting information in order. Probably if you're going to take some time series data, if you're trying to collect data of the same person's scores, if you're trying to take the performance of a particular player over a period of time, all right? So if you don't have the data, take the previous data. Imputation of time series data is, suppose there is no value. Suddenly one day, let us say you're taking daily values, daily departure of certain things. One particular day the data is not there. Sometimes it makes sense to probably say, okay, incremental data missing. Yeah, so you can probably basically, absolutely right. So we're not trying to interpolate here. We're just trying to take the last values, integer value, in absence of anything else. This is not an interpolation. It's something similar to that. All right. So that is okay. So while I said this, in this particular case, it is not acceptable, but yeah, this is also a method. Okay. So now that we have done with the imputation techniques here, let us quickly do the Python code as well. Slight difference in the approach will be there. Let me increase the size. So I'm going to load the most important people in Python, pandas and numpy. Then load the data set. It's loaded. I'm not bothering to look at the total values, but though I'm definitely interested in finding out the number of missing values, which is this one actually gives you a detailed missing values. So these are the number of missing values in each row. Then we are going to do the hot deck nearest neighbor imputation. So for this, we have something called fancy impute. People who are trying this code, you will have a little difficulty to install this. It's a very tricky kind of a library that to be installed. There'll have to be some version controls. I'm just warning you. Not that it's not possible. You can definitely do it. It's a pretty heavy one as well. So nevertheless, you try to do it. So it'll take some time. You see the red square there. So in the meanwhile, I would like to also tell you while the thing gets loaded, I'd also like to tell you that we are currently offering a lot of discounts and offers on our other courses. We have some lot of short-term courses and also some long-term courses as part of our Jumpstart program. I'm just sharing the screen. While that is showing that one, I'm sharing the screen here. All right. So this is the Jumpstart program where we are offering up to 90% scholarship to people who register through our social media, etc. And this offer ends this month, and we have a host of courses, and these are short-term modules that we are creating. So you could probably take an advantage, and you can probably share this. It's not just for participants who have done courses with us; it's for just about for anybody. And once you register, if you not only you get a 90% scholarship on this, subsequent programs that you take up, you will get up to 50% off the next program that you take. So effectively, you get a lot of discount out of this particular thing. So this is something that you shouldn't miss. So that's something I wanted to put it out in front of you. All right. So. Yeah, so it is done. We have loaded the fancy impute. Now I'm going to remove the columns. I'm going to take the column name separately and take it aside so that it's kind of easy. So I have the column name separately with me, and then I'm going to do the entire magic happens here. So I'm going to do the KNN K5, K is equal to 5. All right, fit.transform using the data set claimants underscore KNN. So that is basically what I'm going to do here, and this will take care of all the missing values. And this, you can see here, it has done the imputation, all the imputation activities. It has just taken care of it. So that's just about it. And now what you're going to do is we're going to assign back the column names what we had not taken into it. And then if you look into the data, now there are no missing values. All right. If you look at the top 10 values, these are the imputations that have happened. So probably if you look at claimants underscore KNN, okay, I don't have the raw data. So what I'll do is I'll open the raw data and show it to you. That way you'll be able to relate to it. It's taking a little longer, but in the meanwhile, I'll keep this KNN opened here so that we can probably the same comparison that we had done there. We'll do it across the Microsoft Excel versus the pop-up here. All right. So this is opened here. So let me put serial number so that it makes it easy to understand. Perfect. So 1340 is what we had expected to get it, and the first value here is taken as 1.98. Okay, and then if you look at the 13th value, it has taken 0.673. In fact, the algorithm is just about the same. If you had remember, there also it was 0.673, and if you look at the 15th value, it is 0.053. So pretty much. In R it was different, is it? Okay, let me just quickly check it. Have I closed it? No, I have not closed it. So the nearest neighbor, yeah, let us see. 6109, right? One 192. Okay, yeah. Are you talking about the index value here? Now, index, that is the thing with the Python. Python starts 10. So whatever is 0 in Python is 1. Whatever is 1 in Python is 2, so on and so forth. So if you were to go all the way down, so that is just the index. That is not to be confused. So if you go all the way down here, it ends at 1339. Whereas if you go down all the way here, it ends at 1340. So it starts with 0 and ends with one number less. So that's not a problem. Maybe the initial method by which this particular thing worked, it says 6.19. I'm more concerned about this particular value. I have not gotten to the details of it. Versus this particular 1.983 is something that is something we need to look into it. Probably if you look into the 13th value, it is 1.678. That was a missing value. So here you have the 13th value is 13th value will be the 12th value, 1.678. All right. I'm so sorry. The timing is such. So you get the general idea about what has happened happened here. So now let us move on to the next method of, we already run out of time, but nevertheless, we'll quickly finish it off. So we're going to do the sequential chain equation method. All right, the mice is what we call it. So for this, I'm going to load the data set once again because the existing data set that I have has already been imputed. We'll do. Has already been imputed. And then if you look at the missing values, it is there. Now here I'm going to import iterative imputer as mice. That is what I'm going to be doing it. And I'm going to use mice. All right. So once again, taking care that the column headings are available to me for later use. And then I apply the mice. Okay. This is the basic command for that. It's just a general command. We'll just move on and assign back the column headings to that. And if you look at this, it is all hunky dory. Everything is fine. So claimants underscore S, if you look at it, these are the, now obviously the way it has been imputed, it is slightly different. 12 is 13 is 1.68. It's pretty much the same thing. All right. But the original start off value is different. And again, the problem of what shall I say? The binary values are being taken as mean, have been taken some calculation. So that is being done there now. All right. So that is one thing. And quickly, I'll finish off the last one, wherein we're going to do a simple Mun imputation. That is very basic, but nevertheless, we'll do it. So we have the values here. And you simply do claimants fill NA with the mean value, simply put the mean value. And then again, there is a problem in this claimants underscore mean, because you will get the values with the mean values, which is absolutely incorrect. All right. If you want, you can probably even do the median imputation. We also have the median imputation method. All right. So you can probably load the data set and then check again, it is all there. And you do the median imputation. So when you look at the median imputation, that is kind of better. ME, right? Claimants, yeah, this is the value, claimants underscore ME. So when you look at that value, it is kind of better. Again, the median, because we have some same value, so probably you are getting again median imputation. I'm sorry, your median imputation also will give you these values. All right, so that is basically what we have to offer as part of this particular course. We've run out of time, but nevertheless, it generally gives you an idea as to what are the various imputation techniques. And the key takeaway with reference to this imputation exercise, the key takeaway would be what is the business scenario for which you are doing the imputation. All right, and given that business particular scenario, it is important that you choose the right imputation methods. I give you the examples of where the mean imputation is this thing, where the sequential imputation would probably make sense, all those things. So I'm sharing a Facebook link. Would appreciate if you could give your feedback with reference to how did you like the session and would you be interested in more such sessions. So I'm just sharing it in your chat window. So kindly take some time out and then send in your responses. That really would motivate us to go better and give everything else. All right. Yeah, just a minute. Just please hold on. I think the first one did not come through. Do like us on our Facebook. Yeah. I think in the same message I put, thank you, Apurv. Quick feedback, if you can give me here, would be great. Otherwise, it's perfectly all right. So let me just tell you, the video would be shared on the YouTube link. Now, this is a proprietary thing. So I think we'll discuss and find out if we can probably put it in the comment section of the YouTube video itself. Then probably we can do that. All right. So you can give it. You can probably give your feedback on LinkedIn. I'm assuming you are definitely on LinkedIn, so you can probably give your feedback on LinkedIn. I'm pasting the LinkedIn thing again. Yeah, Jumpstart. I'll explain about Jumpstart once again. So this is a program that we are offering for predominantly. We started off predominantly for college students, but then we started offering it for working professionals as well. So we are offering up to 90% off. Oh, thank you so much. We are planning to offer 90% up to 90% discount on various programs. So you will see that these programs are being offered for as low as 7,000, 8,000, 6,000 rupees. You get complete modules for about 8,000, 9,000, which is like practically peanuts. The reason we are doing that is because we want our brand 360-digit MG to be available to just about everybody. That's one reason for it. And also you get another advantage once you have registered for a program and you've got the the blood in your teeth, as they say. You've got the flavor for 360-digit MG's training methodology. You shouldn't lose out on other training. So whenever you decide to join for another training program, you will get 50% off. Again, I think there's a stipulation about within how much period you can and use that 50% discount coupon. So you will get 50% off on the next available program that you take it up. Again, within a limited period of it. It's not like after 6 months you come back and say that will not be available. Yeah, but that is what we are trying to offer, and this is basically a brand building exercise. Trust me on this. We are not doing it for the money. We are purely doing it for the brand building, and that is why I'm trying to push you people to look for it. So just Google 360-digit MG or Jumpstart 360-digit MG. You will probably land on our page, or you can definitely get in touch with the person who has recommended you or sent you these information. You can probably get into that and get into the details. All right. Thank you so much for your feedback. I tried to do that. Are you a student of mine? At least 6-7 webinars every month. So please keep looking for the space and try to get the maximum benefit of all the free programs that you have. Thank you so much. Signing off from 360-digit MG. This is Nitin Mishra, and you've been a wonderful audience. Good night.